Hello everyone. Now, I'm here to talk about the 2019 supernatural slash superhero film, Hellboy. Okay, yep, this movie has been out for 2 weeks already, and people have been criticizing this movie a lot. Now, I'm here today to just give my opinion on this movie as to why this movie is okay. So let's just get into it. First of all, this movie is about Queen Nimue, the Blood Queen, also known as the Lady of the Lake, making a grand comeback after being in prison for centuries and unleashing chaos upon the world once again, making it up to Hellboy, Alice Monaghan, a spiritual medium, and Kama Ben Daimyo, a soldier that transforms into something really cool, I think, as well as the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense to stop Nimue and save the world. Okay, so let's just get into talking about the problems this movie had. So first of all, this movie had a very complicated plot, as it has bits of it. I mean, it was a mashup of different stories from the Hellboy comic book series just pieced together to form the plot, which is something I find to be a risky thing to do, because when you do that and these stories show the characters going through different situations, places, you're gonna put all that to form a single plot, then this movie is going to show the characters doing the exact same thing, going from place to place. A lot of things going on in this movie, so it's going to confuse the audience when that happens, which was what I thought happened. Yes, some scenes appeared to be worrisome, others appeared to be rushed, and others appear to be there out of the blue just to push the movie forward. They didn't really come in organically. So that's the problems I thought that the plot had. Second of all, it has an excessive amount of dialogue. Just talking, a lot of talking. Now, I don't think that anyone, I mean, it's really hard just to watch through all the talking. It's just too much to process. Now, thirdly, the fighting. I felt that, well, the fighting was just only consisting of, I mean, there was only like 15 to 20% fighting in this film, I think. So that was another downside this movie had as a superhero film. I mean, come on, can't you just put in a little more fighting in this film? Yeah. Now, for the acting, okay, I thought that the acting was mostly great, to be honest. Okay, especially with David Harbour and Mila Jovovich's performances as Hellboy and Nimue, which I'll get into later on, as I'm mentioning the bad points first. But for the bad points of the acting, there were two people who I felt was just unbearable in this movie because of, well, their fake British accents. They come off sounding very scripted and just very cringy. So that part was what I didn't like about the acting. Now, on to how this film was edited. Now, I watched the PG-13 version, so, well, I watched the version where they had the potentially gory scenes edited out. However, I felt that those scenes were cut out very abruptly, making those scenes play out very awkwardly. Okay, it was very obvious that a huge chunk of those scenes were entirely cut out. So, just watching it just kind of was a bit unpleasant to me. It's like they show the beginning of what is about to happen, what is about to come down, and the next frame jumps straight to after everything that has happened. So the final downside I thought this movie had would be the amount of screen time the monsters had in this film, because they were so bizarre looking and very creatively done that they look very interesting. Just looking at them, they were one of the few best things this movie had. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough screen time. So, okay, now that I finished talking about the bad points this movie had, it's time for me to talk about the good points. Now, first of all, the plot. Now, the good side of the plot is that I like the direction the plot takes in not mainly focusing the capture of Nimue, but also showing an origin story of Hellboy, which is what fans have yearned to see in the cinemas, as well as focusing on the development of Hellboy in terms of his character as well as being a superhero. So now it's time for me to talk about the good points of the dialogue. I'm glad that the dialogue is the straight to the point type, as well as being used differently by each of the unique characters in this movie, which is something I think that makes a superhero movie great, because you have all these characters, these different people in this film, and them using the dialogue differently and going straight to the point is, I think, still is a good thing. Now for the fighting, yes, it was fun to watch, which is why I was disappointed that the fighting was only consisting of 15 to 20% in this movie. Now the next point I will go into will be the good side of the acting in this film. Now most of the acting is great, as I mentioned earlier in this video, especially with David Harbour and Mila Jovovich's performances as Hellboy and Nimue, because watching them on screen portraying these characters makes me think that they certainly know how to translate Hellboy and Nimue into, from the comic book into the big screen. In terms of their personality as well as appearance, I would think that David Harbour's efforts in being Hellboy in this movie is commendable, due to being always painted red, going through hours of makeup, prosthetics, and walking around with that big stony arm, having the long greasy hair and the goatee, as well as putting on all that muscle for this film. It's his efforts in Hellboy shows that his role was not easy at all, and for the fact that he still manages to pull it off is worth praising. So the last few things I'd like to talk about what this movie had would be the settings, the designs of the costumes, the prosthetics, makeup, CGI, as well as the design of the characters, especially the creatures, which I mentioned earlier were very bizarre looking and had a very creative touch to them. Watching them just makes me want to learn more about the lore of these creatures. So these are the reasons why I thought Hellboy was fairly decent. It had a story with some substance, it was badass, and I managed to get a few good laughs out of it. The jokes are not bad in this film. Watching this movie makes me think that the directors and writers, they're going to realize the many mistakes they made in this film, and they're going to fix it by making the sequel, which, if they're ever going to make a sequel, to be an improvement by leaps and bounds. So I think that is all. I would like to talk about why I would say that Hellboy is okay. Okay, so I think that is all. I would like to talk about why Hellboy is okay. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Feel free to drop in your comments about Hellboy, regardless if it sucks or not. I would like to know what you guys think of this movie, and look forward to my upcoming movie review, which will be either The Curse of the Weeping Woman or Avengers Endgame. Okay, so I think that's it, and see you guys.